to the Deep NBA podcast. My name's Sean, and joining me today is the one and only Real Lucas P, Mr. Real Lucas P, Malay. How are we?
Yeah, I'm well, Sean, and you?
Yeah, good mate. Thanks for taking the time to call in on a semi-emergency / we've both been away and just wanted to do a pod, but still quite an emergency podcast today as we talk about Zach Lowe rejoining the NBA cognoscenti. How have you been, Lucas?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been. I feel like we've got a bit of news for the Deep 2 and Deep 2 adjacent.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I've been listeners who follow us on the Instagram. There's legitimately been nothing of a excessive bit away.
Yeah.
That is, somewhat of an indictment on me mainly. But I started writing for the next.
Yeah.
Started writing for the next, as well as the pick and roll, and I've also started editing videos for the pick and roll. So that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to figure out. It's already been, an adventure figuring out the work-life balance of work, life, and the pod.
And the balance.
You sort of. Okay, now I didn't even get to that yet. Let alone 2 new pubs. So that's where I've been. So you can still find some of my basketball stuff around, but just not in the Deep 2. But Sean, how rude of me. Where have you been?
I have been in Deutschland. Germany, famous for sausages, beer, sparking 2 world wars. Been in the west of Germany, formerly known as West Germany. Driving through. I was just talking to our mutual friend Dante before we went for a run, and honestly, some quite ugly cities. There's a lot of like West Germany became a bit of a financial and industrial hub following the World Wars, and it's they've just absolutely slutted out some of their landscape to industrial parks. And it's cool, you're one of the strongest economic powers in Europe and the world, but fuck man, it makes for a bad train ride. But then you get through those business parks and then it's oh sick, look at all these beautiful little gems of a city along the Rhine. Look how cultured I sound on a podcast talking about a specific river. But heaps of fun. Have you ever been to Cologne? I know you did a Europe thing last year. Did you go to the 4th biggest city in Germany?
Is it pronounced Schoen? Something like this?
Köln.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I went Hamburg though.
Yeah, how was Hamburg? I didn't go there.
Yeah, well, I got 2 syllables for you, buddy. Berlin. Hamburg was great. Saw a DJ I really liked, and that was fantastic. I did have a bit of trivia. You said that you travel. I did have a bit of trivia for you. It was guess the German word.
Right. 4.
I'll give you 3 options. Entrepreneur.
Oh, this is great trivia.
The. And Glockenspiel.
So, if I can rearrange it, is Glockenspiel the entrepreneur? Is that the words I'm guessing from?
So freaking back, dude.
I'm assuming it's Glockenspiel, and if not, then you're a tricky dicky. But you know the word Gluck translates to happy, or it's pronounced Gluck because it's got an umlaut. And I saw a bar that was pronounced. I saw a bar that was its name was Gluckshot.
No shit.
Yeah.
It certainly makes me happy.
Do you want to talk about where your trips to the far north or FNQs, or should we just get?
True.
Should we get right in?
I've done that as well.
Yeah.
Briefly, I went to a wedding in Byron a week. And also, if you're thinking, hey, Lucas, where the fuck are you? I'm actually outside the front of him right now, in between a Pilates and a yoga, and a meditation class.
Now, tell the people it's Tai Chi, right?
It's Tai Chi warm-up with the yoga middle, and then a Pilates second before the last, and then a meditation at the end. So I'm practically fucking microdosing the whole. But I did actually. I forgot. I went to a wedding in. I didn't forget. I went to a wedding in Byron a week after the cyclone, and it was very heavily impacted. There was three windows missing. There was no power, so we just you're probably wondering how'd you put on a wedding. Well, we did, and that's final. I won't be taking any more questions. But what's actually fully thrown me out of whack as well.
Mm.
I'm so glad I have a public forum to speak about this on. I'll give you the brief. But I had a flight at 5:45 on Sunday evening from Byron to Melbourne that
Mm.
got delayed by 2 hours,
Mm.
finally cancelled at 7:30.
Mm.
The the alternative option, which is what we ended up doing, was getting picked up by a big coach, 9 p.m., getting driven up to the Gold Coast, which we got to arrive at roughly 11 p.m. And then we got flown out of the Gold Coast at 7:20 the next morning. And mind you, we're in a different time zone now, so it's actually 8:20 compared to the
Wow.
times I've been. So that was Sunday night turned into Monday morning, and I genuinely like you just can't do that. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a crucial piece of information. The flight that got cancelled, they had an engineer working on it, not a Jetstar engineer, or not the engineer you could get fucking hammering away on his bike in the background, but a guy that was just on the flight. He just happened to be an engineer, and he just tinkered away at the plane for like 2 hours.
Oh my
And
God.
after 2 hours, he was like, they were in the middle of canceling the flight. You can't make this stuff up. And then she had to interrupt her own PA to say the engineer has asked for 10 more minutes.
That's like one of the things where it's like you're on a plane and they say, "Is anyone here a doctor?" Um, that's
Yeah,
yeah, that's that's actually what dreams are made of. No one's ever said, "Is anyone good
yeah,
at writing niche articles about the trades across specifically Australia?"
yeah. And it doesn't have to be objective; it can be opinion based.
Yeah. All right. Time is of the essence. That's why we're squeezing this in between your Tai Chi, meditation, yoga, Pilates. Um, TJ's been fired. Taylor Jenkins. Actually, sorry. TJ would be fired, but Taylor Jenkins has been parted ways with because, I think a couple of years ago someone mentioned that all white coaches are parted ways with, while black coaches get fired. I think it was like Stephen A or something. Yeah, Taylor Jenkins parted ways with. I'm just going to give just a few stats about the Memphis Grizzlies before we get into the meat of this pod. As of before today's games, the Memphis Grizzlies are sixth in offense, 10th in defense. They're 44 and 31. They're only 3 games behind the third seed, and that's with Ja Morant only playing 44 games, Marcus Smart in 19, which actually might be a good thing. And they've only got 22 games out of Vince Williams and 25 out of JJ Jackson. And they've just parted ways with a coach 9 games before the playoffs. There has been some follow-up reporting saying that, there was one report that said that Ja Morant was supportive of Jenkins and just didn't like the new offense. And then 3 days later, there was a report from the first one was from The Athletic, this one's from ESPN, that said that Ja Morant was considered, quote, the primary motivator, unquote, in the firing. So I don't know what happened in those 3 days, whether the truth came out or the truth has been obscured. Um, Zach Kleiman's come out and said, no, it was completely my decision to fire the coach. It's not the player's decision. There was also a scuffle a few days before Jenkins was fired between Santi Aldama and Desmond Bain. They were talking about each other's effort levels and defense while also just getting into it. And then Tim McMahon of ESPN said that it was long expected that Taylor Jenkins was going to be fired this offseason. Also in that report, it mentions, just to remind you, that Thomas Isalo, the Finnish mastermind behind the offense. Actually, sorry, not behind this offense, but supposed to be like one of the younger up and coming coaches. He and Noah LaRoche were both signed this previous offseason, both given salaries over $1 million. And I don't know what the rest of the market looks like now, but I remember it was just Kevin Young. He was the only assistant coach that being with the Phoenix Suns last year to be making more than $1 million per year. So yeah, it's long expected that they were going to fire him. They brought in these 2 high-paying assistants. I will mention that they fired Noah LaRoche alongside Taylor Jenkins, especially with those concerns about the offense. And it's just a bit of a hot mess and all happening very quickly. Lucas, what's the first thing you want to talk about here?
Well, obviously, first place my mind went to, and hopefully the winner is going to. But then the second place was I really we're gonna after the post season, after the off season, we'll see, we'll get answers for all these questions. But like, who are they looking at? Like,
Mm.
I feel like, coach on the market, I can't think of one right now.
Uh,
And coaches that are in jobs, I can't think of 8 that are better than Taylor Jenkins. So unless they want to do like who's the Toronto coach,
right,
Darko
yeah, yeah,
Milicic. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, if if they want to do that, like if they got that sort of a plan, but like it's just like they've been really good, and I feel like their roster has always been, a little worse their standing, and I think that means that they have good coaching. And look,
Mm.
like but they don't have a bad roster, but I would never say like they should. I would never say they should finish top 3 in the West, and I feel like
Yeah,
they've done that more than once.
yeah.
Um,
There's some pretty bad
and
rosters.
I just, yeah, yeah. Or like unremarkable for a top seed in the West.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially when John
and
Morant
I feel
misses
like if
30 games.
yeah. Also, actually, I'm guessing with this now. What some fucking Grizzlies running that offense where they like just don't
Yeah, when they don't
they
run pick
don't
and
run
rolls.
they don't have
Yeah,
any
yeah, yeah,
screens,
yeah.
and it was
Yeah,
just
that.
working. And then
Yeah,
I guess
yeah, yeah, yeah,
go
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we've got a bit of a delay. It might be the come down from the meditation. Yeah, they were running that offense, which doesn't fucking mix well with your best player, which it was always a bit like I really like the
mm,
offense. There's digital ink or digital sound waves of me saying I really like the offense when I did that video for the Deep Two on YouTube about like is the NBA unwatchable? I said just watch Memphis Grizzlies games because it's just remarkable how they get offense, and that like really does numbers for their role players. Like, like Jay Huff was able to find a role. Jaren Jackson is able to do more on offense. Santi Aldama works well with him. He's just backpedaling to the 3-point line. Guys like Desmond Bain, where it's like, look, you're not a superstar offensive player, but in terms of role players, it's like, well, you can actually like score individually quite well. It's like Marcus Smart, not the best offensive player, but it's like, look, if you're going to hunt for a matchup and you just need him to run circles, drive and kick, it's like, well, this is great. But the problem is, like, their best player is one of the best pick and roll ball handlers in the game. So it's like,
mm,
what's the point of like bringing in this revolutionary system? So it does make sense that they fired Taylor Jenkins, who it just appears they didn't like, but also that Noah LaRoche guy, who was the guy who sort of came to the team with that idea. But it's like, yeah, you could say, okay, Taylor Jenkins bad. He didn't do what it took to prioritize Ja Morant. But he fully is sixth in offense with an offense that doesn't prioritize Ja Morant. And you hired the assistant that came up with the idea, but so it's like there's mixed messages going
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah, definitely. And like the Grizzlies, like every single year, there's something different added to the game plan, and they have success in that as well as the existing game plan from the season before.
Mm.
Like I don't see an avenue in which they win the breakup. Like there's no, I feel like 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years, and bad in one. I just feel like Taylor Jenkins will be better. And will they win a fucking ring with unnamed coach who you don't have any about in 5, 10 years time? Potentially, I wouldn't say so, but maybe. I just think that ah, surely something's happened that we like. Surely there's a crucial detail that we're missing that
Yeah.
is going to come to light. After all these people are retired.
Yeah, like if like the thing would be like, oh, do the players just hate him, right? And it's like we would probably hear about it now that he's been fired, or even before he's been fired. Like in the past, when players haven't liked coaches, or even sometimes before the coach has been fired, we just hear things where it's like, hey, I really don't like this guy. Like it always sort of comes out. No one's really saying that. Was it you or Marco who was like, oh, maybe it's like a bit of an Ime Udoka situation going on here? I don't
Mm.
think
I think
Taylor
that's my
Jenkins
thing.
is nearly as attractive to be considered for that. But like I don't think so. But that would also explain the 9 games before the end of the season. And then Zach
Yeah,
Kleiman comes out and just says, "Oh, hey, like this is completely on me. The players didn't know about it." It's like just finish the season. It's like okay, maybe this year's not your year, but just for the continuity, just so your team doesn't look like a bit like a mess. Like if your plan was to
mm.
fire him at the end of the year, first of all, fire him before the year starts. If you think you're going to fire him, then just fire him before the year starts, and then just bring in an assistant. No one's going to get mad at you if you bring in an assistant for a year, it doesn't work, and then you move on, and like maybe the Suns get rid of Mike Budenholzer, and then you can get Mike Budenholzer and just maybe point to his Milwaukee and Atlanta years, like someone like that, right? But if you were going to fire him at the end of the year, at least see it through, because now it's like now we're all questioning
Mm.
like, oh, is it fucked there? Like, oh, okay, is Ja Morant going to get traded? Like, what's the absolute worst case scenario? Because this is, at least in the time that you and I have been watching basketball, unprecedented. I remember I saw a report earlier in the day that was like, oh, the last time someone got fired this close to the end of the season was this dude in the 80s, I think, and yeah, 1983, Larry Brown. But it's like, yeah, it's been what, 50 over 50 years. No, that is incredibly bad math.
40,
Nearly
40.
40 something years. Yeah, so it's we're now questioning whether Memphis Grizzlies know what they're doing, where it's like just play out the season. Like it sounds like a bit of a waste, but you're not gonna be able to like flip the whole script with a head coach that's coming in with 9 games to go. It's just that's not the fix.
Yeah, yeah. That's like there's a lot of crucial pieces for this fit.
Mm.
But I want to know what the short term vision is and the long term vision.
Yeah.
For the head coach.
Well, actually, could I? Because
Then.
so they could lose the fifth seed. It's looking like they're going to keep it. The Warriors are probably going to end up sixth. The Memphis Grizzlies are probably going to end up five. They're probably going to be playing against the LA Lakers, a team that they don't play well against in the playoffs. And look, the vibes are high. Let's say it is the Warriors, or it is the Nuggets, or it is the Lakers. All three of those teams are probably going to beat the Grizzlies. Not only before you look at this potential dysfunction, just looking at the rosters, it's like things are trending up for the Lakers and the Warriors, and the Nuggets are just a better team, right? So why don't you cop that loss on Taylor Jenkins' career record? Because now this Thomas Isalo guy, let's say it is, or Tuomas, let's say it is like he's the guy, let's say he's the next best coach that is just going to like, come into the NBA and be the best coach ever. Well, he's going to start next season after a training camp of making everything the way he wants it to be, with like a 3-6 career record and one playoff loss against his career. Like that's really unfair to this guy.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, nah, no, I don't think other teams will read into it that much. I mean,
Yeah.
like people are going to look at the last 9 games of the Memphis Grizzlies season and be like, "Yeah, Thomas Isaiah really fucked that up, didn't he?"
Yeah, no. I think like if I had to pick, I would say he's probably going to get hired as the long-term coach after this, right? I'm not saying that other teams are like, oh,
Oh,
this
right.
dude's fucked it. It's
Yeah.
just like the poor guy's going to start his first full year of his professional career, and he's sort of like starting behind the eight ball because he's not going to win a series, and then it's going to be like, okay, cool. When we're at this time next year and the playoffs are about to start, it's like it's not rookie head coach heading into the playoffs. It's like, oh, this guy has been in the
Mm,
playoffs and he didn't perform well. Or it's like, let's say you can't judge him that harshly, but it's like he definitely didn't win, right? So it's just I feel a
mm.
bit bad for this guy that this is getting tacked onto his
Right, right,
record,
right.
not like an interim tag where he can just wash his hands of it and sort of start again when, but I assume he's going to get the
Yeah,
job because you're right, there are no good free agents out there.
yeah, yeah. Well, it seems as though we're aligned.
Thank goodness. I hate fighting with people over the phone.
Was there something else on the running?
Yeah, John Morant, the coach killer, question mark, question mark. I mean, like there's
What do you mean, Charlie and the coach? It's the first time it's happened.
well, I mean JB Big Stuff was there.
But
No, he wasn't, sorry. Taylor Jenkins was the whole
no,
time. Yeah. Well that's funny then. It's funny that I wrote
yeah,
that down. I mean, was this the right decision? Like we just don't have enough information. I guess you lean no, because yeah, just
yeah.
finished the season, but like we're saying that, but we don't know what else has happened. I think it
Mm,
is. Like this next coach is going to come in and like I'm more talking the start of next season, and this coach is going to be like, "Hey, we were 30th in pick and rolls last year. Let's be number one, maybe number two." And their offense is going to look great.
yeah.
John Morant's going to average like 30 and 10, and it's going to be like, "Wow, why didn't we do this before?" And maybe there's a reason why they didn't do it before. Like Ja, he might just be a 40 game player for the rest of his career. And then it's like, okay, well, how's that going to work with Scottie Pippen? So maybe Taylor Jenkins was sort of like not future proofing, but maybe injury proofing his roster a little bit. But
Mm,
I think there's definitely a better middle ground where it's like again, you've got one of the best pick and roll players in the NBA in the world, let's sort of maybe do more of those pick and rolls, as opposed to like
Mm.
wondering what happens for the games where he's not playing, where if he's not playing in the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Like you're just not going to win anything. Let's focus on what you can do when you're at
Yeah.
full health and you can do everything perfectly. So I'm going to say, I don't know. It's definitely the wrong timing. It's probably going to be the right
Mm.
decision
Yeah.
for the Memphis Grizzlies, though.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Mm,
Um, so like I thought of before that I forgot until now. When we were talking about, nothing came out that the team was out of favor with him.
mm.
Um, Jaren Jackson Jr., aka, you know, Triple J. He, I feel like when he came into the league, there was all the personality. There was, no, let me rephrase this. He came into the league as a known good defender, and then
Mm.
it took him maybe a season to get his feet under him. And then I feel like he was an elite rim protector and not a good perimeter defender. And then the perimeter defense came up to like him just being, if you were to call him the best defender in the league, you would have looked at like he was crazy. Um, and then the fouls, they were also always
Mm.
brought up, and then he just stopped fouling. And that to me says, look, my second best player, I've had heaps of success with my first best player, Jar. My
Mm.
second best player is uh, is responding well to the plan we have laid out for him.
Mm.
That our role players seem to always be, and I'm using quotations here, but not only can you listen to us, so you can't teach on overperforming.
Yeah.
What, yeah, yeah, what possibly points towards Taylor Jenkins doing anything but good stuff in Memphis?
Yeah, true. And also, like, it goes to the front office, but also goes to the coach to be able to find diamonds in the rough. So, like, Brandon Clark,
Mm.
drafted mid first round. He's been like a real good basketball player, sometimes closed for him back in the day. John Conchar, nobody. All of a sudden, he's a rotation wing. Desmond Bain, last pick of the first round. And then he's like your third best offensive player, right? Jay Huff, two-way contract,
Mm.
really good player. Santi Aldama, first round pick, but still found a good guy. Scottie Pippen Jr. was waived by the Lakers, and now he's like one of the best backups in the league. And like, look, Vince Williams
Mm.
Jr., G.G. Jackson, we're seeing it with Jalen Wells and Zach Edey. They've just got real basketball players, right? And not a lot
Yeah,
of teams can just get real basketball players out of every single roster spot. And again, front
yeah,
office gets credit there,
and
but
also
it's like,
every single season.
yeah, yeah, and it's like they almost became like a bit of a Miami, where it's like, you send just like a long wing to Miami, and it's like, well, he's gonna fucking average 15 and then get like, $15 million as a free agent. Memphis always sort of became
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah,
I'm sure they still can, but it's like there's this track record by this guy. Like let's not knock that. That's why I like you were tongue in cheek at the start, but I really do think that it would be good in the Washington Wizards, especially if he does have that like sort of kumbaya egalitarian offense. Like you don't have a go-to scorer, and like let's say you draft what a Cooper Flag,
big
right?
flag.
It's still not going to hurt to have a big man as part of that kumbaya drive and kick offense, because it's going to be the big men that benefit from it. Especially if both him and Alex Sarr can shoot. I think he would actually be an excellent coach for the Wizards.
No, that really wasn't tongue in cheek. I think he would be a great
Ah,
coach for the Wizards. But I would love to keep Brian Keith in somewhat of a player development role because he's been good at that. Back to your point about the Grizzlies being like a team like the Heat and throw it back to maybe the mid 2010s. Also the Spurs.
yeah.
I mean, what's the common thread? Like, Eric Spoelstra team, Gary Popovich team. There's pretty good company to share. Um,
Mm,
and I'm not here to do PR for Taylor Jenkins, he's not giving you know what, Sean? Me, as important as I am as part of the basketball commentariat, he's not giving me anything to criticize me about.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and especially because we don't know that the players just hate him. Like, from what we know, the players enjoy his company. So it's like, well, fuck, man,
He-
what's he done?
yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm misremembering this, but was there a couple of times where like he like jumped into his teammates or he like got irate at the ref or something, and the team like got around him.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It rings bells. Like, yeah, yeah. That's so it's
Well, that's what a belt's for, mate.
you're funny. All right, well, Lucas, you have to get back to Tai Chi, so we'll let you go. Any closing points or
It's bloody good to be back on a podcast, even though it is quite unprecedented. And hopefully, I'll get a W out I'll get back into a consistent rhythm of making W's ahead of the WBA because fucking I'm going to Brisbane this Friday.
Yeah, mate. Well, it's turned into the month and a half of fucking Ben all over the planet. But yeah, I guess to the listeners, if you're still listening, back to regularly scheduled programming. This is the mere tip of the iceberg of normality.
There you go. All right, bye, Sean. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, you too, mate. Ciao.
Yeah.
You want to talk WNBA? Maybe some WNBL? Australian Opals chat? Heck, even dabble in some EuroLeague? Find the W Basketball Show on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.
The NBA moves so quickly these days, it's hard to keep up. Shams and Woj are breaking stories left and right, but the Quick Time Out is right there with them to keep you informed on the latest NBA news. Stop in and let us break it down as it happens. Find the Quick Time Out on the Deep 2 Podcast Network.